Okay, hello and welcome to Parshat Pinchas 5782. Thank you for joining us. Today's class is generously sponsored by the Manash family in honor of continued good health for Shoshana Michal Bat Rivka Chaya. It should be mentioned, it's really quite amazing that the person who sponsored the class did it a week ago, when the person was Shoshana Michal was not feeling well at all, and is a kind of a dangerous situation. Pretty soon after the donation, the health improved considerably, and to 98% improvement. And it's incredible. We know that tzedakah tatzil memavet, and the tzedakah they give should be for continued, as I said, continued good health and only good things for their family and for all of us as we learn the parsha together. So a quick summary of the parsha is almost impossible. There's a lot of things that happen in the parsha. It's such a big mishmash. It doesn't even seem to sort of correlate together. And one of the ways we can understand it is according to, we can look at the words of Nebuchadnezzar, who explains that there is actually an order to the parsha. So first of all, the parsha begins where last week's parsha concluded. Pinchas did his heroic act in the end of last week's parsha, and this week's parsha he's rewarded with this covenant of peace, whatever that means, to be a Kohen. After all, his father's a Kohen, his grandfather's a Kohen, so he becomes a Kohen, and he's then the Jewish people are commanded to get back to get justice for the bad behavior of the Midyanim and to attack them, and they need to create an army for that. So they'd have to have a census, and so they do. So there's a census in the parsha, and then the daughters of Tzelafchad want land, and the land of their father who passed away in the desert, and they're not married, so they're not going to have any part in the land of Israel. And also their father, who his inheritance isn't going to go to his children, because they are women, so they don't think that's fair, and they are considered right. Moshe has to ask H-Shem. We'll see a little more about almost all of these incidents. We're going to learn in greater detail in the class, but he's told that girls inherit just like boys when there are no boys, and then speaking of inheritance, Moshe says, "Well, Hashem, what about my position? Who's going to inherit that?" So Hashem says, "You're going to give that position to Yehoshua." So he does, and we're going to talk about that, and God willing. And then the very end of the parsha deals with the holidays. We know the Jewish people have certain holidays, have certain sacrifices to give on each of these holidays, and because we are, unfortunately, as we remember in these 3 weeks, we do not have the Beit HaMikdash. Therefore, we read the parshiot of the holidays on the holidays instead of actually performing the sacrifices, and that parshiot that we read are from this parsha, from the end of Pinchas. So it seems like all a big mishmash, and like I said, Rabbi Nebuchadnezzar explains that all of them all have to do with being prepared to enter the land, sort of tying up loose ends sort of idea, getting all the inheritance issues all squared away, who's a Kohen, so Pinchas, who gets the land, that's the daughters of Tzelafchad, who's the leader, that's Yehoshua. Everybody gets what's coming to them, and the Jewish people are reminded that they will have the pilgrimage festivals, the regalim to celebrate, and that's the end of the parsha. So with that said, with that sort of nutshell version of the parsha, let's go do a deep dive into the verses themselves and see what we can learn. Hello, welcome, live. You won't have the sources in front of you, but you'll have to deal with that. Okay. Uh, people are always invited to come. I'm not sure you'll be able to always come though, but it's good. It's good. It's good to. Very good to have you. Okay, so the parsha begins. Pinchas, not this one. Another Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Heshiv et chamati me'al bnei Yisrael. He answered my anger on the Jewish people. Remember, the Jewish people are dying of a plague at the end of last week's parsha, and that plague ended as soon as Pinchas did what he did. He had my jealousy, whatever that means, betocham, and then I didn't have to kill out the Jewish people from my anger. I see it looks like a Safari translator said it's passion, jealousy, passion, but okay, either way. So we're going to have a quote from the Meshech Chachma, from a midrash. But first I want to look at the midrash just to show you that the midrash is much, much longer than the little piece that the Meshech Chachma is going to speak about. So literally he's going to comment on 4 words. The midrash, as you can see, is a whole paragraph here. But he says, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Badinhu sheyitol scharo. It is the law that I should give him his reward. And then he gives him his reward, and that's the Briti Shalom, etc., etc. So the Meshech Chachma is concerned. Why does it say Bedinhu? It's this is the law. I have to give him a reward. Of course, you have to give him a reward. Somebody does a mitzvah, they get a reward. That's one of the basic principles of Judaism. One of the 13 animaments. You do a mitzvah, there's a reward. You don't do a mitzvah, chas v'shalom, there's a chas v'shalom. So what's going on? Why is it I have to give him a reward? So the Meshech Chachma has a beautiful piece here. I'm gonna skip to right. So skip to the midrash. Skip from the midrash. It says Bedin hu ito et scharo bevir dichtiv. All right, so it says Amro tzaddik ki tov pri malehem yochelu. A tzaddik does good things and receives the fruit of their good things. Right? The Inyan, the H-Shem Yane mitzvah achat. So there's 2 parts of a mitzvah, 2 ways that a person can be doing things for Hashem. So number 1, he says, achat linkom b'osei rasha la'adof pole aven shelo ilamdu acherim emasehem. They can first of all try to push away evil, to get rid of get rid of any kind of rashaim, and corrupt people, and keep them from doing bad things. And that way they're going to obviously avoid bad things from happening. So this is kind of like the sinurav aseto, right? Hate evil and do good. So on the one hand, you can try to prevent evil. And so that's one thing. And then people won't follow after those deeds. They'll see how ridiculous that is. Kahal Yisrael, Kamosha Amar, Kotim Anim Machla Min Haker. So hold on, let me skip to where I'm trying to get to. V'lokein hine mitzvot. But this is not true of other mitzvot. Other mitzvot, there's also, you can do positive, right? And when you do positive, you get reward in this world. And we know this because there's a Mishnah we say every morning, for example, that there's certain rewards in certain mitzvot, gimil chasadim, doing kindness for people, going to a funeral, going to a wedding. There's certain mitzvot you get the reward, and listening to parents, you get the reward in this world and in the world to come. But these are all chesed things. These are all positive, right? Kamo shemenu chachamim bereish b'fnim ayin sham. Yeah. V'zeh amar tzaddik ki tov. That's what it means that a tzaddik gets good. Imhu tzaddik she'osa rak tov, if he's only getting good, he's only doing good things, he's only doing positive, not necessarily fighting the evils, but just doing the positives. He's going to get the fruit in this world. This is not true, however. It's not the same as somebody who's actually fighting against evil. This is what the rabbi said. I think that's what it says. He stabbed the man through the belly. Although mitzvah like this, though, H-Shem, this is showing love, passion, whatever, for the honor of Hashem. Laman shelo yamru hatiru prushim et hadavar v'lo yasuru al Yisrael me Hashem iznotam im benot nekar halo inyan kizet l'shluma yorok rak ba'olam legumule lo kein osa Hashem yitbarach. So so usually, therefore, because what he did was actually fighting off evil, so fighting off evil, he shouldn't be getting a reward in this world. The reward for fighting off evil is a reward in the world to come. Whereas the reward for doing kindness and doing nice things, that you see the reward here in this world. You won't necessarily see the reward for fighting evil in this world. It's interesting. We're gonna, I think, on Tisha B'Av, I wanted to speak quite a bit about. I'll also speak about it in the drasha this week about the riot in Sobibor. Sobibor was a death, not even a death camp, because people didn't really live there per se. Most people just were sent there to die. But there was, I don't know if you know this, but in 1943, there was a rebellion there. And not too many people survived, but about 50 people were able to break free. And eventually fought the war out of 600. Not great. 300 got into the forest. Eventually, most of them were either rounded up or killed, whatever. There's a whole story. But what's interesting is the person who basically ran the whole thing, or half ran the whole thing, because he partnered up with somebody else. He was a religious guy, and he right after the war, he survived, and right after the war, he settled down in Lublin. Everything was fine, and then about a year later, he got killed. He died. There's a controversy about who exactly killed him. Either it was an anti-Semitic thing, or maybe whatever. Anyway, whatever it was, he didn't see the reward of his. That's exactly this. He fought evil. He didn't see the reward. I mean, he lived. And there's probably thousands of people alive today because of what he did. But he didn't really see. But he was mostly doing the fighting, not doing the chesed. Yes, he did chesed too. Don't get me wrong. There's quite a bit of chesed in the story, as you'll learn more about the story. Hopefully, in the next few weeks, you'll see there's Sobibor. Yeah, there are movies made about it, but Sobibor, Sobibor, I believe, Bor. Sobibor. Yeah. In case you're curious, his name was Leon Feldhendler. Feldhendler. So yeah, so he was a religious guy from a religious family in Poland. His father was a rabbi in a small town, and he was able to basically organize and plan out a very elaborate escape. Again, it was a limited success, and he himself died after the war, but he did a lot of good. Anyway, the point is, we don't usually see our reward for fighting evil in this world. Sometimes you die in the struggle. Yeah.
My question is, like, let's say a person just like keeps himself and does good deeds and doesn't like push away evil. Like, they don't get any reward in the world to come.
I didn't say that. You get a reward in this world and the world to come. But the reward for fighting evil, seems like the Meshech Chochmah is saying, is specifically designed for the world to come. Yeah, it's exclusive. Just that. Good question. Thank you for clarifying. So that's why. So the Meshech Chochmah continues. That's why the Midrash had to say that. That's why H-Shem has to say that in the Midrash. By law, I don't really have to give him a reward. I can give him the reward in the world to come. What did Pinchas do? He fought evil, so he should get his reward in the world to come. So why did he get his reward here? And he gets a reward here because he becomes a Kohen, which is quite a reward. And if we take the other midrashim about him literally, then he is Eliyahu, which means he's still alive, and he has this elevated status of half human, half angel, whatever it is. It's not bad, right? It's quite a reward in this world. He's still here. So what's going on? So he brings from the Gemara. It doesn't quote it here, but it's basically a Gemara in Shabbat 127a that there's a rule about judging people favorably, right? That when you judge someone favorably, you give them the benefit of the doubt, you get the reward for this world. Saving lives is included in this idea. If you save a life, it's like you're judging people favorably. Literally, you're giving them life. So that should also give you a reward in this world. So what did Pinchas do? So even though the reason he did it was covet Hashem, and even though he did it because he was zealous for Hashem, he was a kanoi, right? That's another reason. Some others interpreted that's the reason why this midrash had to say that he has to get a reward, even though usually a kanoi, somebody who's zealous, doesn't usually get a reward. Maybe for something like this, is allowed to do it, but doesn't mean you get a reward. He gets a reward, and Hashiv et Chamati me'al bnei Israel, he stopped the plague. In the end, 24,000 people died. We don't know how many thousands would have died otherwise. So then, therefore, that's why he gets Briti Shalom, and that's how he explains Midrash Ladati. That's his explanation of the Midrash. Okay, that's how we started the class with this midrash and the Meshech Chochmah, and now on the same exact pasuk, we're going to have a comment from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. There's actually a question on a Rashi. We're going to have a few Rashis today. We have some questions on Rashis, which is okay. We're going to go France, Russia, back and forth. Okay, so Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen, famous Rashi. Rashi asks, why do we have to get the whole genealogy of Pinchas? We get Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. Okay, Pinchas ben Elazar. There's how many Pinchas ben Elazars were there back then, right? So you don't need to get too technical here. So they said the Rashi, the first Rashi on the parsha actually here, the Fisha Yuesh Shvatim Mizavim Oto. The Shvatim were making fun of him. Deserves commentary in and of itself, by the way. But we're not going to go into it now. Why were they doing it? Okay. Ben Puti zeh. Did you see this? Ben Puti, the son of Puti. That's how they said basically a descendant of Putiel, who is another name for Yitro. Yitro was his grandfather, because Aaron married. Hold on one second. No, Elazar married the one of the other daughters of Yitro. Yitro had 5 daughters. 5? I forget now the number. Zipporah. Anyway, I don't remember. He had a number of daughters, and by the way, it means like somebody who fattens something. A puti is somebody who makes things fat, right? So, and it says here, shepitem avi imo agalim la'avodah zarah. Their mother's father used to fatten calves for avodah zarah, right? So, like, that's how they made fun of him, right? So, why they made fun of him, we're not going to get into right now. But let's look at what Rabbi Yaakov says about this. So and then look at this guy that goes and kills Nasi Shevet Israel. He goes kills a prince of one of the tribes of Israel. So basically they were blaming his behavior on this. So he says that was Rashi. Says Rav Yaakov, Bir hadavarhu. Let's to explain this. Dehine bikinot yesh lishchud ki mipnei shahargiz Ragshotav, Gedushot, who, Koes, maybe we don't know why he did this. Is it because he's an angry person? Is it because he's is he just does he have that in his maybe that's part of his nature? He's got this nature where he likes to kill things. His grandfather, fattened calves. He was maybe he wants to fatten somebody. Nimsa Harigat Zimri Haya Shemetz Shel Ritzicha. It's kind of like this murder, this killing was sort of. It looked like maybe it was because of anger. Who knows? Yeah, well, I don't know if they even saw the autopsy report. I'm saying I don't know but he killed somebody. He might have looked angry. He took a spear. You don't just go kill people with calm poker face expression unless you're psychopath. All right, but I would imagine. Maybe his kina, his passion, however we're gonna translate kina, maybe it's not because of Hashem. Maybe it's because he just likes to kill. Torah ki adarab. That's why the Torah has to testify adarab in Yiddish pumfaker. The opposite, the very opposite. It's yeshivish. It's yeshivish. Even I know it. I don't know Yiddish, and I know that. Right. Right. Hamasa has Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. That's why it has to say he's Pinchas, the son of Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Ben bino shoha ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. Who's Aaron? Aaron was an ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. He loved peace and pursued peace. That's what Pinchas was doing. He was pursuing peace. And nevertheless, by force, he was forced to avenge Hashem's anger. As if he's in my place. It had nothing to do with anger at all. He wasn't angry when he killed him. He wasn't angry at him. He didn't just like fly off the handle, grab a spear, and kill somebody. Shalom. That's why he gets the covenant of all things peace. Mida, says Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Mida kineged Mida. That's how Hashem always operates in this world. It is always going to be measure for measure. So for the measure of love and affection and peace that Pinchas had, therefore Hashem responds and gives him a reward of peace as well. It's not because he wanted to kill. It's not because he was angry. It's not because of any other kind of passion or anything else like that. It's all because he wanted shalom, and that's exactly what he got, as it says very clearly that it was that the Magifa ended because of him. Speaking of the Magifa ending, let's talk about that verse. Chapter 26, verse 1. But that was, by the way, 25:11, if you want to look it up. Okay, 26:1. Vayhi acharei hamagifa, and it was after the plague. V'yomer Hashem el Moshe ve'Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen lemor, and that's when Hashem speaks to Moshe and to Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, and he says to them basically to make a count of the Jewish people. Very important that we're counting the Jewish people. After all, this is the book of Numbers, and this is Numbers. So we are doing Cheshbon here. Um, look at that. Would you look at that? So Rashi says, so as you may or may not remember, the phrasing, I should have probably quoted the verse, a verse or two from there. I don't have it. Never mind, doesn't matter. Not important. That's just not for our person. We don't really need to know. I could do it here. So I have a chumash here. So as we said, it's chapter 26, verse 1. And it's actually all over the place. You'll find it numerous times. With every single family that's mentioned, it doesn't just say the family. It also then says the family E. So, for example, if they would be saying the Rosenberg family, it would say the Rosenbergs were the Rosenberg family, or I don't know how you would translate it. I'll show you. Again, where is he? Anyway, so it says here, for instance, right? Let's talk about Shimon, because everybody always talks about Reuben. All right, this was verse 20, verse 11. You can find it throughout this whole chapter, but chapter 26, verse 11 says, Bnei Shimon lemishpachotam, the family of Shimon, according to their families, Lemuel mishpachat hanimueli. Nimuel was one of his sons. Hanimueli. There's a hey in the beginning and a yud at the end. So the Nemuelite family is how they translate it in the art scroll, but we're going to see that that's not how Rashi understood it. So Rashi says he starts off by saying, why are we doing a count at all? Should I bring this up? Should I not? Oh, I'm funny. I do have the source. Okay. 26 verse 5, same idea. Reuven b'chor Yisrael b'nei Reuven Hanoch mishpachat ha'Chanochi ufalu mishpachat ha'Palui. Right. So it's throughout this whole chapter. Very long chapter. Very long aliyah. It's actually the second aliyah. It's probably the longest aliyah in the parsha. But it's the whole counting of the entire Jewish people. So it deserves to be. So why is it that ha'Chanochi lefisha yu ha'umot? Again, somebody's embarrassing us. There's bullying going on all over the place. First, we had Pinchas being bullied for killing Zimri, and now we have the Jewish people themselves are being bullied. Why? So the nations of the world were making fun of the Jews, and they were saying, "Ma elu mityachsin al shivtehem." Look at these people. They think they have yichus. They think they have kosher men and women. Siborim hem shalo shaltu b'Mitzrayim b'motehem. Weren't they in Egypt? You know, how kosher could they have been? You know, people who are, you know, usually in those kinds of positions, they're not usually ask the slaves of Thomas Jefferson. They're not usually kept so kosher, right? Sorry? Yeah. Nice. Yes. George Washington also had slaves. I don't know if there's any stories about him and his slaves, but definitely Thomas Jefferson there's famous stories. Im begufam hayu moshlim kal v'chomer bishnotehem. So if you think that their bodies were enslaved, how much more so were their wives obviously controlled by the Egyptians? That's why Hashem put his name on the Jewish people. A hechsher. Right? Whatever you think about the OU or whatever, this is better than the OU. This Hashem's hechsher. Right? He puts Hashem's hechsher. Hey mitzadzeh, yud mitzadzeh. Hey on the one side, yud on the other side. That is one of Hashem's names. Right? The yud and hey. Lomar meid ani alehem shehem b'nei avotehem. I am testifying that they are the sons of their fathers. By the way, as Rav Hirsch points out, mostly nobody else can really say that they are their father's child. How do you prove that? They didn't have paternity tests back then, right? They didn't have Maury Povich or whatever. So how are you going to prove that you're the child of your father? Besides, maybe if you look like him, okay. I mean, maybe your mother looks like your father, whatever. So there was no real way to prove it back then. And that's why the Jewish people are unique, that we have this. We have paternal descent and maternal descent, because we know who our parents are. We're confident in their chastity, in their moral behavior. V'zehu hamuforash al yedei David, and then it says he gives proof. All right, that's probably enough of the Rashi for now. He gives other examples of the yud in. Okay, 1 second. Let me. Oh boy! Participant. Contact. How do I do this? 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, give me a second. I should probably stop the share here. Give me 1 moment. I apologize. What's the name? Okay. No, I'm sorry. Okay. Emailing you. I apologize. Okay, so we're back to this. So there's that was the Rashi, and the question will become, why particularly this name? How Hashem wants to testify on somebody. Now, okay, one simple answer is because it's short, a hey and a yud. Okay, so it's much easier than saying Hachinochi, so Chanochi, Chanochi Shakai, or Hanochi Elokim, or something like that. So obviously, there are all kinds of ways that Hashem could attach His name to somebody, and there are probably simpler ways to do it. But this putting a hey and a yud, it doesn't completely seem to make sense until you look at the Gur Aryeh. The Gur Aryeh, remember, is a commentary of the Maharal of Prague on Rashi, and he says, beautiful answer. And you might have heard this before, especially those of you who are recently married. You might have heard that had lo hifsik ha'ot echad min Hashem bilvad mishum b'shem yud hey Natan HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'ish ve'isha. He gave man and woman his name. Because ish is spelled aleph, yud, shin. So there's a yud. And isha is also aleph, shin, with a hey. So there's a yud and a hey in ish ve'isha. B'yud, be'ish, ve'hei, be'isha. Lefichach zeh Hashem, yud and hey, made alehem shehem b'nei avotehem. That's the name that proves that the partners, the husband and wife, were chaste and that they were pure and that they were not fooling around or messing around with anybody else. And this is the perfect time to be talking about that, considering that this is right after the plague when the Jewish people did mess up. And those people who messed up died. It was a plague broke out, right? Kilomar Oto Hashem Shehu Mizivug Ish Ve'isha. This is the name that connects man and woman. I'm sure you must have heard the Gemara itself gives this drasha. It says you take out the yud from ish and you take out the hey from isha. What do you have? You have ish and ish, two fires. That's a big fire. Right? So they both need to be good. It's interesting if you talk to people who don't know very much about Judaism. One of the things they'll say is that there's too much pressure on a woman to be pure and no pressure on a man to be pure. They must have not read this parsha. 24,000 people died from a plague. That's not counting the people who, by the way, the Torah right before the plague mentions that the Beit Din was convened to go and kill people who were committing this crime, with witnesses and testimony, the whole jazz. Those people who weren't caught, a lot of commentaries explain, those people who weren't caught by the court and weren't killed by people were killed by the plague. That's 24,000 people. So we don't know how many people, aside from those, died from actually just getting caught the proper way, quote unquote. So that's Rashi. That's the Gur Aryeh about why the Torah adds the letter Yud and Hey to each of these names. It's such a beautiful thing, by the way. I know it sometimes seems tedious to learn the parsha, and I've mentioned before. There's a mitzvah, Shnayim Mikra Vecha Targum, to read the parsha twice in Hebrew, once in translation / commentary, whatever. So it gets very tedious, especially like I said, this is a very long parsha. I don't know, 40 something psukim. It's pretty long, and you go through and Hanochi, Naftali. It gets a little tedious. I'll be honest, but have in mind, if you haven't done it yet, if you're about to do it, have in mind while you're doing it that each one of these families is getting testimony from Hashem himself that they're pure. Each one. It's an amazing, and when you're listening to a Torah reading on Shabbat, think about that while that's happening. That's what you're witnessing. You're witnessing Hashem testifying to the holiness of these people who are our ancestors.
But they're all gonna die at the end.
Why? No. This is the end of 40 years. These are the ones who are going to go in. This is it. Yeah, the 40-year period ended 2 parshas ago. This is it. These people are going to go into the land. That's one of the reasons that they're being counted. That's the Rashi we sort of skipped. What? Why not?
Yeah, but these are their children.
These are their. Those men were between the ages of 20 and 60. So any men who are older than 60 and younger than 20, and if they survive the 40 years in the desert, these are them who didn't die from the 24,000 who died in the plague last parsha. Okay, so we're talking about quite a number of people. I don't know the exact numbers, but I can tell you what the numbers are between 20 and 60. As the Torah itself tells you, it's about 600,000 something. All right. Anyway, so that's that. So that's Rashi there. Okay, so now we're going to skip to the next issue in the parsha, and that is the daughters of Tzelafchad. Now, in previous years I've spoken quite a bit about the daughters of Tzelafchad. I gave one drasha once, which was less a drasha and more like a history lesson. It's very interesting that the daughters of Tzelafchad, at least one of them, has archaeological evidence to her existence, because remember they inherited land, so the whole land is named after certain people. So Nama, I think, was the one that there's quite a bit of evidence to her existence, which is amazing. It proves, yeah, there's current archaeological evidence to the fact that she lived, which biblical scholars, quote unquote, have tried to fight for the longest time. I've mentioned before, when I was quite a bit younger, 30 years ago already. Oh wow, that was a scary thing to say. I'm gonna get over that, but about 30 years ago, scholars were still debating whether King David existed or not. I mean, it's not that long ago. In my lifetime, they were debating it, and then they found archaeological proof. The city of David was named after him, and they know how old it was. Sorry?
They all conceded that point, or some of them still
I don't know. There might be some people who still deny it.
There's
There's people who deny that we went to the moon. There's people who deny that that our planet is round. I don't take those people too seriously. There's a lot of craziness in the world. But there might be people who deny that there was a King David, but there's quite a bit of evidence to it now. Enough that we can safely say archaeologists are finally catching up to actual truth of the situation. So, all right. So let's get right into the daughters of Tzelafchad. They again, what the story was, Tzelafchad died in the desert. There's questions about how, why, but anyway, he died of his own sins, as they say. And Rav Hirsch points out, like every person, everybody dies basically of their own sins, whatever that means. Nobody's perfect.
I don't want to say the tangent, but it's one of the opinions that like he was gathering wood, but it was like for a noble purpose to show that there was death penalty.
Yes, correct. So I don't know if you heard that, but yes, one of the opinions about who Tzelafchad was is he was the one who was gathering wood on Shabbat, and he died. So he doesn't seem like a very good guy if he's gathering, or whatever that means, gathering wood, collecting wood, chopping wood, whatever it is he was doing, carrying wood. There's a whole machloket in the Gemara about what exactly he was doing wrong, which one of the 39 malachot he was breaking of Shabbat. Either way, whatever it was, he apparently had some sort of noble purpose, like you said, and that is to prove that Shabbat is a serious thing and carries with it the death penalty. Okay. I hope he told his family that he was going to go out to do this before he went, because otherwise, otherwise it was a very unfortunate Shabbat meal. So, they all gathered for lunch and like, where's Dad? He's gathering wood. He's what? My husband? That's a funny guy. All right. Anyway, so anyway, his daughters come up to Moshe and they say, everybody's inheriting land. We want land too. And we don't have husbands yet. By the way, I'm not going to go into it now, but they were quite old by this time, by the way. But just pointing out that these are 5 daughters. None of them are married. This is that's 38 years after their father died, if he was the one gathering wood, right? So they're not, young whippersnappers. Maybe they were in college to get the degree. I don't know. Whatever it was, they're definitely past the younger part of their prime, at least, right? We can safely say. And they gather to Moshe and they say, we want to inherit the land. We want to inherit what our father would have inherited. Sorry, we need to go a little bit faster. So Moshe says, okay, no problem. Let me see what H-Shem says. Excuse me? Let me see what H-Shem says? Why don't you know? You're Moshe Rabbeinu. You know the entire Torah. Moshe is about to die, by the way, within the next few months of this story, right? This is it. Like I said, the end of the 40 years. So he knows the whole Torah, doesn't he? Doesn't he know what to do with this kind of case? Apparently he forgot. So there's a Gemara about why he forgot, because he became angry earlier or later, whatever it is. I'm not going to get into that now. But either way, he had to ask H-Shem, and we're going to have another commentary about why he had to ask H-Shem in just a moment. Let's look at the verse itself. It says, "Vayakriv Moshe et mishpatan lifnei Hashem." Moshe had to bring this case to Hashem. Like, you have to give me a minute, go into his chambers, the Olam Moed or whatever it was, open up a Sefer Torah, close his eyes, meditate, open up a siddur, Tehillim. I don't know what he opened up, and Hashem spoke to him and told him what to do. So Rashi says, "V'akrev Moshe et mishpatan nidma lahalacha mimenu." The halacha left him. He didn't know the answer to the halacha. Why didn't he know the halacha? So Rashi gives his own answer. By the way, Rashi's answer, just in short, is that he says that at an earlier time, he was asked a question, and he said, "I'll tell you what Hashem says," as if Hashem is just one button, one click away. He's saved on his phone. Number one probably. Hashem is one. Hold on one long enough, you'll talk to Hashem, or your voicemail. Don't try this at home. Either way, that's what he does, and so because of that, he gets punished and says, "No." Hashem says, "I'm not that easy. I'm not just going to come down and answer your questions whenever you feel the need to be bothered." All right. So answers the Chafetz Chaim on Al Torah. It says there, he says a Pirush Rashi Divrei Razal Yadua. What Rashi says and what Chazal say is already well known. Not always, but it was well known to him, at least by his son-in-law who wrote this book. The Efshar Lomar ki b'shvil kach nit alma men halacha v'lo charetz dinam shal benot Tzelafchad. He didn't know the rule, the law, what to answer the daughters of Tzelafchad. By the way, just so you know, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but he does tell them what the answer is, and the answer is they inherit. Right? They inherited the land that they would have inherited had they had brothers. Had they been men. Had they been sons instead of daughters, they would have inherited the land also. Otherwise, the son inherits, and the reason for that, by the way, isn't because we don't want women to own stuff or something like that. It's because we want, especially in the ancient world, we wanted the men to they had a punishment coming to them, as they still do, that they have to work and earn money by the sweat of their brow, whatever that means. Everybody on their own different level, different amounts of sweat, different brows, different brows for bros. So the end result is that women are not under the same obligation to earn the money, especially in the ancient world. And so we wanted the men to earn their keep and support the women. That was basically the idea. So then we have a problem. So why did he have to then ask Hashem for the answer? Bishvil shemoshe Rabbeinu ra et atzmo kishochad mediver benot Tzelafchad. Oh, he felt like maybe he was being bribed by the words of the daughters of Tzelafchad. Why? Sha'amru al avihim, because he said about their father, shehu lo haya betocha edav v'noadim al Hashem, etc. They said he died of his own sins. He wasn't part of the people of Korach who rebelled against you, Moshe. He liked you, Moshe. He's a big fan of yours. He had a poster of you on his wall. You should have seen him. He was a president of the Moshe Rabbeinu fan club. So that's our father. So Moshe's like, I got to recuse myself. I can't be the judge of this case if they're buttering me up like this. And that's why he went to Hashem. It's not that he forgot the halacha. It's not that he didn't know the halacha or that there's some sort of punishment. This is just a consequence of the fact, says the Chafetz Chaim, and others say this similar idea, by the way. It's bribery isn't just money. There's all kinds of ways to bribe people. And one of them is flattery. Flattery will get you pretty far. it looks like I'm not going to get political right now, but there are people in positions of power who, at least rumor has it, they got there because they knew how to, they knew how to be nice to the right people, to say it politely. Okay. But yeah, so shochad is the answer according to the Chafetz Chaim. Now, we have time for, I think, 2 more. Okay, we'll try to do 3 more. It's going to be tight. We're going to go fast, okay? All right, 27:18. 27:18. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give a lot of commentary on different parts of the parsha. As I said, you guys missed the intro, but the parshas are kind of like scattered. It's kind of like almost, if this would have been written by a human being, God forbid, it would be like we'd think the author is scatterbrained, like it's all over the place, right? So, and then I gave a few explanations about why it is the way it is. But anyway, this parsha, like I said, goes from place to place to place. We had Tzelafchad, we had this. Now we're going to go into the fact that Yehoshua becomes the next leader. And Moshe gives him smicha. He literally leans his hands. Vayom Hashem el Moshe, kach lecha et Yehoshua, take Yehoshua, because Moshe asks for a successor. He says, bring Yehoshua bin Nun, ish asher ruach bo, v'samachta et yadcha alav, and lean your hand on him. By the way, happens to be later on, we find out how he does it. He leans both hands on him. He doesn't listen to H-Shem. This could be a problem, but it's not. Usually it's seen as a positive thing that he really, really gave him all of his love and affection and wanted him to be as successful as possible.
You become a rabbi, do people put 2 hands on you?
Nope. Not anymore. Smicha nowadays isn't what it's smicha used to be. It used to pour oil over the person. Thank God they don't do that anymore.
Now it's like a diploma.
Yeah, it's basically a diploma.
No hands?
No hands. Hands free. Hands free smicha. Especially mine. All right. So, all right. So the Sforno, it was an Italian commentary from the 1600s. The Sforno says on the phrase Ish asher ruach bo. He says the Torah describes Yehoshua as somebody who had ruach. What does that mean? So the Sforno says just about like 10 words, and they're very, very, let's call it enigmatic, okay? Which means it's an enigma, which means confusing. Muchan lekabel or pnei melech hayim keinyan. He was somebody who was able to accept, lekabel, to receive, receive is a good word, the light of the face of the living king. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? Ubelev kol chacham leiv natati chachma. And then he says, and this is a quote from Shemot 31:6, that belev kol chacham leiv natati chachma. Hashem put wisdom into the heart of all wise people. That made a lot of sense, right? Now we know why Yehoshua is the leader. That makes so much sense. And he's able to accept the light of the living king, and Hashem put wisdom into all wise people. All right, good. Let's go on. No, so the Sforno needs commentary. So first I want to read you the commentary of Rabbi Rafael Pelkovitz, because he is the Sforno scholar par excellence today. He's the translator of the Art Scroll Sforno commentary. He's got a lot of important commentary in the footnotes. So I'll read you the footnote here on this comment in a moment. Also, he has, a lot of people don't know, Sforno wrote a commentary on Pirkei Avot. And Rabbi Pelkovitz did that as well. So it's a very worthy, also in Art Scroll. Anyway, a man in whom is spirit. The Talmud in Tractate Brachot 55a says the Holy One, blessed is He, gives wisdom only to one who has wisdom already. Rabbi Abahu derives this from this verse in Shemot 31:6, which is quoted by Sforno in his commentary on the verse. In other words, God's light and inspiration demands a vessel which is capable of receiving it. That is why God assures Moshe that Yehoshua is indeed such a man, one in whom there is spirit, and hence he is the type of person who can be the chacham that can get chachma. All right, so that's why he's chosen. Now I'd like to read to you, and this is a long piece, and we don't have time for this whole thing, but I'm just going to focus right here. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz in Sichot Musar has an essay on Ish Asher Ruach Bo, that phrase, a man who has spirit in him. That phrase from our pasuk. All right, so what does that mean? And he brings this forno, Ish Asher Ruach, and he says, Divrei has forno nidgala lana sod. These words of this forno are teaching us a very important secret, a sod. You want to translate sod as instead of secret, you want to call it foundation, works too. Either way, hadavar mehi malazeh shel chacham leiv. This defines what is somebody who is a chacham leiv. It doesn't say chacham, it says chacham leiv, wise of heart. Shemuvor bekatuv shecharich sheyikne ota ha'adam be'atzmo kodem shiten lo kadosh baruch hu chachma. A person who wants to get that chachma that Hashem gives people needs to first become a chacham leiv, whatever that means. So let's see what that means. Yeah, so then he gives the rest of that quote from the Sforno. Okay, I'm just going to read this paragraph here. We learn from the words of the Sforno, ki chacham leiv inyano mi shemuchan lekabel or pnei melech hayim. It's somebody who is prepared to receive the light of the living king, whatever that means. Rotza lomar. What he means to say by this is mi she'enu mistapek b'ma sheyeshlo. He doesn't stop with what he has. Ele kol kulam uvake shoel v'talelet yoter v'yoter. He always wants more. You want to be a chacham? You want a chachma from Hashem? You can't be okay with what you have. Status quo is not the goal here. You want more and more and more. You are ready to see, you're ready to get the light of the living king. What does that mean, the light of the living king? Think about it. Just imagine there's a king and he's alive and he has some sort of light and you want it. If you're not the king, how are you going to get it? If you really want it, you will struggle to get it. You will talk to people. You will research. You will send letters. You will start a living king fan club and become the president. And you will gather support. You will gather an army. You will want that light. You'll do whatever it takes to get that light if you really, really want it. So what we have here is somebody who really, really wants that light. That's what this Forno is describing here. Hold on a second. Did I? Oh, I see. I'm not sharing the screen anymore. Nobody told me. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Okay, we're back. All right, so this paragraph is very important and very informative. What Chaim Shmulevitz says is, you want chachma, you want to become a chacham leiv, you have to struggle, you have to fight, you have to do whatever you can do to become the greatest person, and that's what Yehoshua had, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu found in him. That's what Hashem found in him. Okay, next pasuk. We've got two more. We're not over time yet because we started a little late. We'll try to get this done. First of all, like we said, 27-23 is the verse. 27-23, Chav Zayin, Chav Gimel. And like I said before, Yismoch et Yadav Allah Yitzavehu Kasher Diber Hashem Biad Moshe. He laid his hands upon him, both hands, Yadav, not Yado, not his hand, Yadav, both hands. He leaned both hands on him, and then he, as Hashem told him to do, which is a little bit strange because that's not what Hashem told him to do. So let's look at the commentary of Moshe Sternbach in Tam V'dat. He has a commentary here, Rashi. He did so this is he did much more than Hashem told him to do. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lo Samachta Et Yadcha, like we said, he did more than that. He leaned both his hands. Okay. Good. Upshuto bekavana she'asmicha biyad achat. So what does it make? What does it make any difference? You use one hand, two hands. It's symbolic, right? It's not like your energy comes out more from two hands and from the same energy, or whatever.
Might be different.
Might be, but maybe not.
Double voltage.
So double volt, but it's coming from the same source. You have a you have a charger for your phone, a portable charger. All right, it has a cord. Right. Let's say I had two cords. So you have one of those fancy ones with the two cords. Same power. Right. If you plug both of those cords into the same phone,
Like faster.
but if you could somehow plug in one phone twice from the same charger, shouldn't make any difference if you're doing it once or twice. It's from the same charger. Why?
Because I think it would be faster.
It probably wouldn't be. It's probably delivering it slower, if anything. It's splitting it.
Interesting.
So anyway, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I'm not sure this works the same as electricity. Hey, you can ask him later. But he gives a completely different answer about why he does this. So he gives from the fact that the Vilna Gaon had a custom when he gave the Birkat Kohanim to his children Friday nights. It's a custom to do such a thing. So he would never do it with two hands. Why? Because who's supposed to give the priestly blessing with two hands? A Kohen. And the Vilna Gaon was not a Kohen. And he's like, I don't want to mock. I don't want to pretend like I'm a Kohen giving real Birkat Kohanim to my children. So he wouldn't do that. And some people still do that. There's a lot of different minhagim. Do whatever your family does. So using two hands seems to be an important part. He says, is Birkat Kohanim yasa mitzvotam shenitztu ba. Birkat Kohanim has to be with two hands. So he brings from the Rambam that even a Kohen who is not very religious, who is, let's say, not very. I mean, obviously, back then there weren't too many options. But we're talking about in the Rambam Hilchot Tefillah 15:7. He says there that a Kohen who maybe people aren't saying good things about him and etc. Maybe he has a better reputation, can still give Birkat Kohanim. Okay, so it can still give the why. It's effective because it's not him giving the blessing. Why? It's Hashem speaking through him giving the blessing. So it doesn't really matter how good he is. I don't want his bracha. I don't really. He's a nobody to me. It doesn't have to be a somebody to you. He's the microphone. He's the amplifier to Hashem's bracha. That's it. Right? It's not his bracha. It's Hashem's. But here we have Moshe. Moshe is giving this bracha to Yehoshua. That's what smicha usually means. He's giving him a bracha. And he was a Kohen during the 7 days of the Mishkan. He was the first Kohen, right? In a sense, he's kind of still a Kohen. Says, Moshe. And therefore, he rests his two hands on Yehoshua, just like a Kohen would do, because he's giving him the bracha, and not from him. That's why the pasuk ends with just like Hashem commanded him, even though it wasn't like Hashem commanded him. It's because it means that Hashem is giving Yehoshua the bracha through Moshe. All right, the last piece is very, I'm going to say it very, very short. You can look at the sources later on your own. And anyway, we all have places to go and things to do. Just a beautiful Chiddushei Harim that you probably didn't think of before. The end of the parsha deals with like I said, the sacrifices, for the Musafim, for the holidays. We read from Parshat Pinchas at every holiday. V'darav Hashem Moshe Lemor Tavet b'nei Yisrael v'marta lehem et karbani lachmi leishay reich nichochet yishmeru lahakriv li b'moedo. And every holiday, every Rosh Chodesh, we read these. We read from Parshat Pinchas. We're going to be doing that, God willing, soon. All right, this is chapters 28, basically chapter 28, verse 1 and 2, for sake of what I just quoted. Says the Chidush Harim, Kol Hamodas v'Karbonot Nizkaru b'Parshazu. All of these Karbonot and holidays are mentioned here. Why? V'pnei shnit arvu nishamot Nadav ve'Avihu b'Pinchas. It's a deep concept. Nadav and Avihu, who died, who the Kohanim before Pinchas was a Kohen. They died. They say the Kabbalistic sources, their souls were put into Pinchas and Nadav and Avihu, right? So, right, that's a lot of people for one person to be. He's a pretty responsible guy. They gave up their lives. So it sounds like they did this on purpose. Their foreign fire or whatever they brought the Ketoet. Oh boy! Right. So they gave up their lives for the Mishkan. Al kain hayu tzadikim elu yisod l'kol hakabana. Because of that, Nadav and Avihu are the yisod, are literally the foundation of all future karbanot. They gave their lives for Be'ach, and then that it's in Parshat Pinchas, because all of these people who we've been talking about are all giving up their lives for people, or willing to. Pinchas almost gave up his life. He was pretty much could have been killed by anybody in Shimon. It was a miracle that he wasn't. That's one of the miracles that's mentioned. And so all of these people could have given up their lives, but they didn't. They survived, and therefore, what we're left with is Tzelafchad's daughters were willing to give up everything. Moshe was willing to give up his power. Over and over and over again. One of the repeated phrases, one of the repeated, I don't know if you call it a phrase, really, motif, really is what you call it in French. Anyway, so one of the motifs of this parsha is the fact that people are being sort of nefesh, they're giving up their lives for the sake of others. And that's a beautiful way to end the parsha, especially in these weeks of before Tisha B'Av. We know a lot of Jewish people gave up their lives to keep Judaism, to keep us here, and none of us would be here today if it weren't for the sacrifices of the generations before us. I wish you all a good week, rest of your week, and the Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Okay.